Help me reach 1,000 subscribers. Please support this video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you. I got home early that Thursday around 4. My work boots left faint dust tracks across the hardwood floor of our apartment. The kitchen smelled of stale coffee and burnt toast, Emily's usual breakfast when she wasn't rushing to her job at the PR firm. She was sitting on a stool at the counter, phone in hand, scrolling like it was a competition. She didn't look up when I walked in, didn't even flinch when my keys clattered onto the hook by the door. The air felt heavy, like the windows hadn't been opened in days. "Hey," I said casually, "how's your day going?" "Normal," she replied. One word, flat as the linoleum under her feet. I reached for her hand, just a quick squeeze. She yanked it back like I'd shocked her. No explanation, just that sharp pull while her eyes stayed locked on the screen. I stood there for a second, the hum of the fridge filling the silence. Something shifted in the room. It felt like the first crack in a windshield. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and let it slide. If I'd known that was the first domino falling, I'd have started packing right then, but I didn't. I thought it was just a bad day, maybe stress from a client pitch. If I'd known what kind of storm was building, I'd have saved myself months of her games. That kitchen moment wasn't the explosion, it was the warning shot. I didn't see it then, but Emily wasn't just distracted. She was rewriting the script. Her job kept her on all the time, schmoozing clients, posting perfect updates online, performing for anyone who'd watch. I figured she was just burnt out, maybe overwhelmed. So I gave her space. Big mistake. Space was her weapon, and she used it to carve out a new role. The woman who doesn't need you but expects you to stick around like a loyal dog. The next week, I tried to bridge the gap. After a 10-hour day at the construction site, I showered off the dust and sweat, though the hot water barely eased the ache in my shoulders. I suggested we go to that Italian place she loved, the one with the tiramisu she always posted about online. "Not feeling it," she said, eyes still on her phone, voice flat like she was dismissing a waiter. I tried again. Movie night, a walk by the river, even just sitting on the couch with a bottle of wine. Every idea got a shrug or a maybe later. By the end of the week, I stopped asking and started counting instead. 14 times she shut me down when I tried to talk, hug, or just be in the same room. 9 eye rolls when I suggested anything remotely couple-like. 3 times she walked out mid-conversation, leaving me talking to the walls. I'm not the type to beg for scraps. Never was. But I'm not blind either. This wasn't a mood swing. It was a system. I saw the pattern now. Every brush-off was about keeping me at arm's length while she held the reins. So I decided to test her rules. One night, I sat her down at the kitchen table. Her coffee mug was still there from the morning, cold and half empty, the handle chipped from when she'd dropped it last month. The overhead light buzzed faintly, throwing shadows on the table. "Look, Emily," I said, steady but firm. "If you're tired or upset, fine. But this cold shoulder thing, it's not working. If there's a problem, say it. Let's deal with it." She leaned back, crossed her arms, and gave me a look like I was a kid missing the point of a lesson. "You know what, Jake? It's actually better this way. I feel lighter, less weighed down." Then she hit me with, "I'm really glad you're not clinging so much anymore." No venom, no heat, just calm, smug delivery, like she'd solved a puzzle and I was the piece she'd tossed aside. I didn't yell. I didn't slam the table. I just looked at her, letting her words settle. "Lighter, huh?" I said, standing up. "Good to know." She tilted her head, smiling that half smile. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you've made your point," I said, leaning forward slightly. "You don't need me, so why am I still here playing your game?" Her smile faltered for a split second. "You're taking this way too seriously, Jake. I just need space." "Space?" I raised an eyebrow. "You've had the whole damn apartment to yourself for weeks. You don't talk. You don't touch. You don't even look at me." That's not space. That's a one-woman show. And I'm not your audience. She scoffed, picking up her phone. You're being dramatic. I'm just busy. Work's been crazy. You know that. Busy, I repeated slowly. Busy enough to shut me out 14 times in a week, to roll your eyes when I try to plan a date, to walk out while I'm mid-sentence. I'm not your intern, Emily. I'm your husband. That finally made her set her phone down. She looked at me and said, So what? You're threatening to leave just because I'm not fawning over you every second. No threats, I replied, calm but firm. Just facts. You want to feel light? Fine. I won't weigh you down. I washed my mug, dried it with a dish towel, and put it back in the cabinet. Then I walked to the bedroom and started pulling shirts from the closet. She didn't follow, didn't ask what I was doing. By the time I zipped up my duffel bag, she was back on her phone, like I was just a delivery guy dropping off her takeout. I grabbed the keys to my truck, the ones I'd given her when we moved in together 2 years ago, and set them on the hall table. If you're lighter without me, I said, I'll make it permanent. That finally made her look up, eyebrows raised, but she didn't answer. I walked out, checked into a cheap motel off Route 17 that night, the kind with flickering neon lights and vending machines that swallow your quarters. The bed creaked, the AC rattled, but it was still better than staying in her orbit. 2 days later, I signed a lease on a one-bedroom across town. It was small, with old wooden floors that groaned under your feet, but it had a clear view of the park. I dropped our apartment keys with her sister Sarah, who didn't give me that pitying look most people do. She was the only one in this whole mess who didn't act like she was holding a gavel. If I thought leaving would snap Emily out of it, I was dead wrong. The first week was quiet, too quiet. Then the text started. Emily, you just left. No conversation. Like she hadn't spent a month dodging every word I tried to get out. I almost laughed staring at the screen. Conversation? She'd been allergic to those. I typed back, We had one. You said you were lighter. I listened. Her reply came fast. You're twisting my words. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I shot back. Because you made it clear I was the problem. I'm just respecting your wishes. No response. 2 days later, Sarah called. Her voice was flat, like she was reading a weather report. Emily's telling people you took it too personally, says you overreacted. I snorted. Overreacted? She spent a month treating me like a roommate she couldn't stand. Tell her I'm just giving her what she wanted. Sarah didn't argue. She didn't have to. She knew Emily better than anyone. She knew how her sister could twist a story until she looked like the hero. Then came the breakfast stunt. I was in my new place, barely unpacked, frying bacon in my boxers on a Saturday morning. The apartment smelled of coffee and grease, the good kind of morning. The window was open, and I could hear kids playing in the park across the street. There was a knock at the door. I opened it, and there stood Emily with a grocery bag, smiling like she was auditioning for Wife of the Year. I got coffee, eggs, that hot sauce you like, she said, forcing a grin that didn't reach her eyes. Let's just eat. No hard feelings. I leaned against the doorframe, spatula still in hand, bacon sizzling behind me. No hard feelings, Emily? You spent weeks acting like I was furniture you didn't want in the room. Now you're here with a peace offering? What's the angle? Her smile tightened, but she kept at it. There's no angle, Jake. I'm just trying to be nice. Can't we just have breakfast? Nice? I repeated, letting the word hang. You were nice when you told me you felt lighter without me. So what's this? Guilt? A photo op for your followers? She shifted the bag to her other hand, her charm starting to crack. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm trying to fix things. Fix things? I stepped forward. What's there to fix? You got your space. You got your light life. Why are you here, Emily? You think a bag of groceries makes up for a month of treating me like I don't exist? Her mouth opened, then closed. Finally, she softened her tone, almost like she was pitching a client. I didn't mean to make you feel that way. I was stressed. Work's been hell. Can we just start over? I shook my head. Start over? You don't get to hit reset after rewriting the whole game. I'm feeling pretty light myself without the circus. I stepped back and shut the door. Not a slam, just a firm click. Done. I heard her stand there for a moment, then her footsteps fading down the hall. The very next day, I saw her post online. Some fancy restaurant, dim lights, her smiling next to a guy in a blazer who looked like he sold insurance or crypto. Caption: Real peace comes with someone who doesn't need to talk. I didn't like it, didn't comment, just took a screenshot and saved it for the record. My buddy Mike texted me later. You see that? She's trying to get under your skin. Yeah, I replied, and I'm not playing. She thought that post would make me jealous, make me chase her. Instead, it showed me exactly who she was, someone who'd rather stage a performance than face reality. But let's rewind. That kitchen moment wasn't the very first crack. It was just the one I couldn't ignore. A month before I left, we were at a barbecue at her friend Lisa's place. Backyard strung with lights, burgers on the grill, cold beers in a cooler. The air smelled of charcoal and cut grass. Somebody's playlist was blasting classic rock. I was talking to Lisa about a project I was managing, a new office building downtown. Just casual talk about timelines and permits. Emily walked over, wine glass in hand, and cut in laughing. Jake, you don't need to bore her with construction stuff. Her friend smirked, eyes darting between us. Lisa looked uncomfortable, then muttered something about grabbing another drink. I didn't bite. I just raised my beer and said, Funny, I thought I was answering her question. My bad, Lisa said. She hesitated, then added, No, it's fine, Jake. Sounds like a big deal. What's the building like? I smiled, keeping my eyes on Emily. It's a 20-story office tower, high end, rooftop garden. I'm making sure the whole thing doesn't fall apart before it's done. Not exactly boring, right? Lisa nodded, genuinely interested. That's awesome. How do you keep track of all that? Before I could answer, Emily jumped in again. Oh, he's got his crew for that. Jake's the guy who makes sure everyone shows up. Her tone was light, but sharp, like a knife wrapped in a napkin. Her friends laughed. She sipped her wine, looking pleased. I leaned back, kept my voice steady. Actually, Lisa, I run the whole operation. Budget, timeline, subcontractors. It's like herding cats, but with cranes and concrete. You should stop by the site sometime. I'll give you the non-boring tour. The group chuckled. Lisa grinned. Emily's smile froze just for a second, but I caught it. She didn't like losing the spotlight. Seriously, Lisa said. That sounds intense. How do you deal with the pressure? Focus, I said, glancing at Emily. You learn to tune out the noise and stick to what matters, kind of like dodging bad pitches. The group laughed again, louder this time. Emily sipped her wine, her fingers tight around the glass. Later, in the car, I brought it up. What was that about, trying to make me look like an idiot in front of your friends? She sighed like I was the one exhausting her. It was a joke, Jake. Relax, she told me. You're always so serious. It was just a joke. A joke? I said, gripping the steering wheel. Funny how your jokes always end with me looking like the hired help. Next time, let me in on the punchline, or don't be shocked if I end up stealing the spotlight. She rolled her eyes. You're so sensitive. I was only trying to keep things light. Light, I repeated as I pulled into the driveway. Light, like you're trying to keep me small. Good to know where we stand. She didn't reply, just got out of the car and went inside, leaving me with the hum of the engine. That's when it clicked. Every dig she made was about keeping me down. And I'd had enough. Time to change the rules. A week later, things got worse. We were at a work mixer for her PR firm. Some fancy hotel downtown, chandeliers overhead, overpriced cocktails everywhere. I was stuffed into a suit I hated, making small talk with her coworkers. One of them, Greg, asked what I did for work. I opened my mouth, but Emily cut me off. Oh, Jake's in construction. Keeps him busy. She said it with a smile, but it was the kind of smile you give a kid showing off a half-decent report card. Greg nodded politely and drifted off. I waited until he was gone, then leaned closer. What's with that introduction? You make it sound like I'm out there swinging a hammer all day. She shrugged. It's not a big deal, Jake. I was just summarizing. Summarizing, I said evenly. Next time, let me summarize myself. I don't need a hype man. She brushed it off with a laugh, but I caught it, that flicker of satisfaction. She liked boxing me in, making me smaller. Later at the hotel bar, I was talking with a few of her coworkers about a new city project. Rachel asked me about the challenges of running such big builds. I had just started to explain when Emily jumped in again. Oh, Jake's used to chaos, she said, flashing another tight smile. He's good at keeping things under control. Another jab. Another attempt to shrink me. I set my drink down. Actually, Rachel, I said, it's not really about control. It's about strategy. You've got budgets, timelines, and about 100 egos to juggle. Kind of like PR, except my clients don't care about hashtags. The group laughed, Rachel included. She leaned in, clearly interested. Sounds like you're the one running the show. What's the hardest part? Dealing with people who think they know better, I said, glancing at Emily. You've got to stay sharp and call things out when they don't add up. The group chuckled again. One of the guys, Tom, raised his glass. To staying sharp? Emily excused herself, saying she needed to check on a client. Later, as we waited for the valet, I turned to her. You've got to stop this, Emily. Every time I open my mouth, you cut me down. What's your deal? She crossed her arms, the streetlights catching on her earrings. My deal? You're the one turning a networking event into your own TED Talk. Networking? I said, stepping closer. You mean showing off for your coworkers while you undercut me? I'm not your prop, Emily. Keep this up, and you'll be networking solo. She didn't answer, just climbed into the car when it pulled up. That's when I knew she wasn't just taking jabs. She was writing me out of her story. A week before the kitchen blow-up, we met her friend Karen at a downtown coffee shop. The place was packed, buzzing with chatter and the smell of espresso. Karen, one of Emily's oldest friends, was all smiles. But I'd seen her play backup to Emily's digs before. We were talking weekend plans when Karen asked me about work. Still out there in the dirt, Jake, she said, laughing like it was harmless. Before I could answer, Emily jumped in. Oh, you know Jake, always knee-deep in construction stuff. Keeps him out of trouble. She winked at Karen, who laughed harder. Then Emily shifted the spotlight, asking Karen about her latest campaign. Karen lit up, and just like that, I was sidelined. I stirred my coffee, watching Emily steer things back to her world. But I wasn't letting this one slide. Actually, Karen, I cut in, about my work, it's not just construction stuff. I'm managing a $10 million project right now, a 20-story tower downtown. It's like running a small army, budgets, timelines, subcontractors, kind of like PR, but with real stakes. Karen's eyes widened. Wow, that's huge. How do you keep it all straight? Practice, I said, holding Emily's gaze, and knowing when to call things out when people try to run the show without knowing what they're doing. Karen glanced at Emily, who was suddenly glued to her phone. Sounds intense, Karen said. Do you ever get stressed out? Only when people try to rewrite my job description, I answered with a smile. The table went quiet. Emily's jaw tightened. She tried to switch gears, asking Karen about a client, but the moment had already shifted. Outside, Emily let loose. You didn't need to make that dig about PR, she snapped. Karen's my friend, not your audience. Funny, I said, unlocking the car. You didn't seem to mind making me the punchline. If you keep painting me as the guy in the dirt, don't be surprised when I push back. She stayed silent, staring out the window. That's when it became crystal clear. Every jab was a way to keep me small, but I wasn't playing that game anymore. The real breaking point came just days before I packed up and left. We were at the kitchen table, laptop open, looking at our bank account. Things were tighter than I liked, not desperate, but enough to sting. I suggested trimming some extras, like her yoga studio membership she hadn't used in months. The look she gave me was like I'd asked her to sell her car. You're seriously going to nickel and dime me over yoga? She snapped. Maybe if you pushed harder at work, we wouldn't be scraping by. I set the laptop down. Scraping by? I'm pulling 50-hour weeks, Emily, and you're not exactly cutting coupons yourself. So what's this really about? It's about you always trying to control everything, she fired back. I need my space, my freedom. You're suffocating me with all this budget nonsense. Suffocating? I leaned back, shaking my head. That's rich, coming from someone who's been treating me like a tenant for weeks. You want freedom? I shut the laptop and walked out of the room. That's when it finally hit me. This wasn't about money, yoga, or even bills. Emily wanted to rewrite the rules so she was always the one in control. About 2 weeks after I moved out, she invited me to a client's house party. Big place in the suburbs, pool, catering, the works. At first, I almost said no, but she pushed, saying maybe it could be a fresh start. I went, not really hopeful, more curious. The house was full of polished people, everyone in suits and dresses, sipping wine under chandeliers. Emily was in her element, working the room, charming anyone who looked her way. When she introduced me to the host, Paul, it was the same routine. This is Jake. He's in construction, she said, like I was just a guy with a hammer. Paul nodded politely. Before she could move the conversation away, I spoke up. Actually, I manage large-scale projects. Right now, I'm running a 20-story office tower downtown. It's a challenge, but we're keeping it on track. Paul's eyes lit up. That's impressive. How do you deal with the stress? It's all about focus, I said, giving Emily a quick look. You learn to cut out the noise and stick to what matters. The group nodded. Emily's smile was still there, but tight. She jumped in quickly. We just landed a major client at the firm. Huge opportunity for us. Paul nodded politely again, but another guest, Claire, turned back to me. Jake, what's it like watching a building go from nothing to something that size? It's like watching a city take shape, I said. Every piece, steel, glass, concrete, has to fit perfectly. One mistake and everything gets thrown off. Paul, you should stop by the site sometime. I'll show you what goes into it. Paul handed me his card. I'd love that. Emily's face didn't move, but I could see the cracks. Later, when we went to grab drinks at the bar, she snapped. You didn't have to take over the conversation. That was my client, my knight. Your knight? I set my glass down. Then why'd you invite me? So I could stand in the background while you play the star? I'm not your prop, Emily. If that's what you're looking for, find someone else. I walked off and talked with other guests. That was the last time I went anywhere with her. Emily wasn't just distant. She was playing a game. Every eye roll, every jab in front of friends, family, or coworkers, every time she cut me off, it was all about keeping me small while she looked bigger. She didn't want a partner. She wanted a sidekick. And when I stopped playing, she didn't know what to do. The final blow-up came in the hallway of my new building. I was heading downstairs for coffee when she suddenly showed up, her voice echoing like she wanted the neighbors to hear. You're acting like a coward, Jake, running away instead of having a real conversation. I stopped, turned to face her. She was pacing, hands flying everywhere. A coward? I said, calm but firm. You spent a month dodging me, telling me you felt lighter without me. I gave you what you wanted. What's the problem now? You're making me sound like the bad guy, she snapped. You just left. You didn't even try to fix it. Fix what? I asked, stepping closer. You made it clear I was the problem. The barbecue where you cut me off in front of Lisa. The work mixer where you made me sound like a laborer. The coffee shop with Karen. Dinner with your parents. That client's party where you treated me like the help. You wanted space, Emily. I gave it to you. Now you're angry because I'm not begging you to take me back? Pick a lane. She froze, then tried one last shot. I'll tell everyone you bailed because you're insecure, that you couldn't handle me being independent. I laughed, not loud, just enough to make her flinch. Go ahead, tell them. But don't forget to mention how light you felt when I stopped trying. Tell them about Karen, the client's party, all the times you cut me down. Make sure they hear the whole story. I turned and walked away. A few minutes later, I heard her car peel off. That was the last time she showed up. I don't live with regret, never have. But looking back, I should have spotted her game from the start. None of it was random. The barbecue, the mixer, the coffee shop, the dinner with her parents, the party, they were all deliberate. Moves to keep me in my place. And when I stopped playing along, she didn't just lose control. She lost her audience. A month later, my buddy Mike called. He'd seen Emily at a bar downtown with some guy, all cozy, glancing around like she wanted to be noticed. Let her, I said. She's still putting on a show, but there's no audience anymore. Mike laughed. You're cold, man, but I get it. She's just trying to make you jealous. She can try, I said, but I'm not in that game anymore. Mike never sugar-coated things. No lectures, no pity, just straight truth. He'd been through the same thing with his ex, different person, same playbook, always needing attention, always needing to be the star. He didn't tell me to leave Emily, didn't have to. He just said one thing: you don't owe her your peace. That stuck. Now I've got my own place. It's small, but it's mine. I come home from work, kick off my boots, the floor creaking beneath me. I cook what I feel like: steak, tacos, whatever I want. The kitchen smells like garlic and spices, not burnt toast. I watch what I want, sleep when I want. My phone doesn't buzz with passive aggressive texts. My keys stay where I leave them. If someone wants to come into my life and start playing games, let them try. But I'm not in that game anymore. And I've got a feeling Emily's still figuring out what she lost when she bet on the wrong thing.